Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Padash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone, the men that taught me this truth. And I would also like to say shalom to the elect. Alright, so I'm the brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. Back once again with another lesson. And this lesson that I'm going to be getting into today is going to be a lesson going into secrecy, right, and the importance of it. But before I begin, what I'm going to do is get the definition of what the word secrecy means. The word secrecy alone. All right. This is the word secrecy in the Google definition. It says the action of keeping something secret or the state of being kept secret, right? So as a man, as a wise man, right? And I'm speaking to myself first and foremost, it's important to keep particular matters concealed, right? And what I also have queued up here is an AI overview of the question that I asked, which was, why is secrecy important, And I'm going to get into it. All right, so it says secrecy is important because it protects sensitive information, fosters trust, and allows for the development of relationships, innovation, and personal boundaries, right? So that's the obvious, right? But we can dig deeper in the rabbit hole, right? It says it also plays a role in national security, intellectual property protection, and maintaining confidential in various contexts, including workplaces and personal lives, right? So this is secrecy in the terms of you having a business, right? But let's deal with secrecy in terms of individual, and deal between you in terms of you and people, right? So here it is. It says, here's a more detailed look at why secrecy is important. Protection of sensitive information. Secrecy is crucial for safeguarding valuable knowledge, intellectual property, and confidential data that could be misused or stolen if exposed, right? And something that just came to mind is, basically tying this to the truth is when the scriptures speak about not giving your pearls to swine, right? Because what we have to understand is that this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is a treasure. It's a valuable pearl, right? And if it's in the wrong hands, it could be misused, right? And, and that's the case there, right? It says intellectual property and confidential data that could be misused, right? So this, the truth, it being presented in the purest form, the doctrine of Yahweh Shai, that's confidential data, man. It's classified data, for lack of better words, because the scriptures also speak about only particular men having access to the truth, right? But this could be misused and, basically dealt illy if it's got in the wrong hands, right? And hence, the precept I quoted in the book of Matthew, I believe that's the 7th chapter, when it speaks about not casting your pearls before swine. That's not giving this knowledge to people that you deem unworthy to have it, man. Knowing what they will do with it. Right? And that could also tie along to these other Israelite camps, right? Because they have the truth, but guess what? They're misusing the truth. Like the scriptures speak about some teaching Yahweh Shai only for contention and strife, or certain men or certain groups that are teaching the gospel for filthy lucre's sake. That's misusing it, man. Right? But guess what? The Lord only allowed, this is the beauty of it. The Lord only allowed them to obtain a particular level of understanding of the scriptures, right? And that's, once again, what inspired this lesson, the secrecy of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, the secrecy of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, right? Because Yahweh, he is a secretive power, man, right? There's particular things that only he knows and nobody else, no other spirit knows, right? And that's what makes him omnipotent, all-knowing, right? Matter of fact, let me get a quick example of the Lord, Yahweh, knowing something that nobody else does. This is the book of Matthew 24 and verse 36. It says, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only." Right? So what is that day and that hour? Right? Is the day that the Heavenly Father is going to send his beloved Son, Yahweh Shai, to redeem his people and to cast judgment on the earth, right? But that day and hour is not revealed to nobody, not even the Heavenly Father's beloved Son, nor any of the angels. The only person that has access to that information is the Heavenly Father himself, right? So that's one example of the Lord concealing a particular matter. And once again, that's honor, that's glory in concealing or keeping particular things secret. As we're going to read on in the question I posed to it in Google, right? So let's continue on. Point 2, it says building trust. Matter of fact, let me answer that question real quick. Because the Lord Yahweh conceals the matter, or like we read in Matthew 24, that hour and that day, that's also a form, that is the Lord being all powerful, right? When you only know particular things, right, that contributes to your power, that adds to your strength and might, to your wisdom, to your position, man. That's the word I was looking for, right? When it's only you that knows particular things and knows how something is in your control, right? That adds to your status, man, to your power, right? If that makes sense, and that's the case with Yahweh, right? Even these different enterprises, right? These different jobs, it's particular jobs where the head of the job only teaches so much to the workers, only lets them get so high, because why? They don't want the workers to surpass them or learn too much, and the workers think that they're something. They build a pride in themselves, right? And think they're too good for the job, and so on and so forth, right? And that's the same case with the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahshai. Even though we know that there's nothing that we could do to try to become equal with the Most High, or try to surpass the Most High. But that's the dynamic, that the idea, is what I'm getting out of it, right? So let's go back to point number 2. It says building trust. Keeping secrets can build trust, especially when it comes to sharing personal information or confidential matters with others, right? So once again, the Lord is building trust through his men, his elect, by giving them this confidential information, right? And you are to do something with that confidential information because it's a blueprint on what you're supposed to do, right? Put it into use, you know? But once again, that's building trust. Continuing point 3, it says maintaining personal boundaries. Secrecy helps define the boundaries between what is public and what is private, allowing individuals to control how they are perceived and to protect their privacy and dignity, right? So part of secrecy is that, okay, you don't allow particular things to be known about yourself and your life, right? So that your image is not tarnished, right? Hence the term familiarity breeds contempt. Too much familiarity, people being too familiar with you, they're gonna basically lose respect for you because they know your ins and outs. They know they basically got you figured out, right? So they just look at you as another person, right? And that's why secrecy is important. Why? Because it also establishes boundaries between you and whomever, right? We continue. It says let me see. Let's skip down to this one. National security and defense. In national security and defense, secrecy is essential for protecting sensitive military information, strategy plans, and operational details. Workplace confidentiality. In workplaces, secrecy helps protect client data, trade secrets, and other confidential information that could do harm if disclosed. Preserving relationships. Keeping secrets can be crucial for maintaining healthy relationships by protecting sensitive information or avoiding unnecessary hurt, right? And the scriptures also speak about how a fool, he'll utter his mouth, his words, right? A fool basically wouldn't hold in information. A fool would basically blurt out whatever the first thing that comes to his mind, which you don't want to do that. You want to keep particular things secret. There's particular things that you shouldn't say, right? That's a part of secrecy. Matter of fact, I have a precept in the book of Proverbs 29 and verse 11. It says, a fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it in till afterwards, right? So a wise man, he would hold a thought that comes into his mind, or a particular matter, he would keep a secret for a particular reason, right? So let's go from there to Proverbs 14 and verse 33. It says, wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known, right? So yeah, a fool will talk about everything that's going on in his life. He will spill all his secrets out, and think that, if I'm being transparent with this person, they might accept me, But that's not how you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be completely transparent with people, and especially women, right? The only one you're really supposed to be transparent with is the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and His Son, Yahweh Shai. So let's go from there to the book of Sirach 4. No, that's not the one. Sirach 42 and verse. Salakia. Sirach 42 and verse 15. Because the Lord Yahweh, he only reveals particular things to his men, and he didn't reveal everything, right? But he kept particular things hidden from his men, right? It says, Sirach 42 and verse 15, I will now remember the works of the Lord and declare the things that I have seen. And the words of the Lord are his works. The sun that giveth light looketh upon all things, and the work thereof is full of the glory of the Lord. The Lord had not given power to his saints to declare all his marvelous works, which the Almighty Lord firmly settled, that whatsoever is might be established for his glory, right? So the Lord has not given us, his saints, which are the Israelites, complete power to declare each and every one of his marvelous works, right? Why? As for his glory, and that's the Lord concealing a matter or matters, right? Which keeps him on top. You see? So let's go from there to the book of Deuteronomy 29 and verse 29. It says, the secret things belong unto the Lord Yahweh, our power, right? So there's particular secrets and intricacies that only belong to the Heavenly Father Yahweh, only things that he knows, right? It says, but those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of this law, right? And then there is certain things that the Lord has given us access to get into. And a perfect example that just came to mind right now is dealing with the stars and the alignments of the stars. And that wisdom the Lord has kept from us, right? He concealed from us in this point in time. But at one point, that was actually revealed to us, right? And the tribe of Issachar, Yashakar, was well known for that, for understanding and dealing with the stars and things like that, right? But in this day and age, that has been concealed from us, right? And even other particular books of the scriptures, quick thing that came to mind, one of the prophets in the book of Samuel's, I believe it was a Gadite, but he had a book of that prophet, and we don't have that book right now. So there's particular things that are concealed and kept secret by the Heavenly Father, but then there's particular things that are revealed unto us and we have access to, all right? But once again, that dynamic, certain things being concealed and certain things being revealed, the Lord is in control of that, going to show that the Lord is all powerful and omnipotent, all right, all knowing, and that's why we worship him. That's why scriptures also speak about a man can receive nothing except it be given to him from heaven, right? So you can't receive any form of understanding or coming to a conclusion unless the Lord grants you access and opens up your mind and gives you that secret, right? Once again, going to show you that the Lord is supreme, So, hey, with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect. I want to say, Kal Halayim La Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Racha Kodash. Once again, double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the elect.